All right. Well, we've done an interview with Ryan. And actually, probably you haven't seen that one yet. That's going to be the next one. But right now, we've got Sandra Woloschuk, who is the sales manager for Ripley's Aquarium of Canada. I say that right? That's
Yes,
her.
you are correct. Thank you.
Perfect. And what I've asked Sandra to do is sort of walk us through. She's the sales manager there, and want to walk us through sort of a day in the life of what her job entails, what she needs to do. So, Sandra, sort of, I know you're at OMCA today, which is the Ontario Motor Coach Association. So, why don't you tell us a little bit about that? So, that is one aspect of your job is going out and soliciting new business.
For sure. So basically, I started off about 8 years ago here. We opened up in 2013, and I was here while construction was still happening. So I was able to start in the position and grow the position, grow a team here at the aquarium as well. We've been a team of three pretty much up until COVID, and then now it's just right now myself. So I'm hoping to grow my team back again. So having had started and having to come back to learning and to remembering and doing all the steps that I used to do and basically rebuilding the business. That's what I've had to do post COVID. So OMCA is one of the tour operator conferences that I attend, and I sell to tour operators that bring groups, student groups, adult groups, senior groups, sometimes corporate that like to come to the aquarium. And the purpose of it is not so much for business that's happening tomorrow or the next day or next week. I'm trying to build business that's going to come in the next 6 months to a year and potentially even beyond that. So you're always having to have your rates prepared in advance. I have a 7 minute meeting where I have to introduce myself. I have to have a little bit of small talk, showcase the aquarium, give some rates, and entice them and tell them why they want to bring their group to me here at the aquarium. So that's what we do when we have a conference. But in my normal day-to-day life of the aquarium, I wear a lot of hats. So I start off in the morning where I come into the office. I obviously will check my voicemail and emails and basically prioritize what I have to work on first. We have a group email account that comes, it's attached to my email. So what happens is that any group requests that comes through online comes to me directly, and I then have to create an invoice, contact the client to let them know that their booking is either reserved or I need to make adjustments to it. I have to then put it through its paces, put it into a binder. Then a couple days before the group comes in, I have to also facilitate and get payment. So then I have to contact them again, get the payment, process the tickets, have them all ready. It seems sometimes like a lot of little things, and they do take up a lot of time, but it's how we do business here at the aquarium.
Well, and it's also juggling a lot of balls at the same time because if you are having to remember who to call, you must have a pretty stringent calendar and organizational skills because you're continuing to take bookings in, but at the same time you have to manage them. And then I'm sure that there's some internal processes of other people you have to connect with for every
Yes.
individual group.
Yeah. So when I'm handling it, usually what happens is that the group bookings will come through. Sometimes I work with an Excel spreadsheet. I have it all laid out. There's a lot of color coding going on. There's a lot of binders, a lot of flags on emails, folders in my inbox so I know that it's moved from, order received to invoice sent to payment required to finalized. But then I also work with the education department because I sometimes get group requests, especially corporate group requests that are looking for a behind the scenes tour. So if they're looking for a behind the scenes tour, I work with that education department to get one of their educators to do a 25-minute behind the scenes tour add-on. So we've just brought that back post COVID. We've reduced the number. It used to be about 15 maximum. Now we have 8 people that can do a behind the scenes tour. So then when you have groups of 24, I have to split them up and have more than one and then balance what time they're coming in, checking out. A lot of times they're doing a different event. Along with education, I work with the events team. So we sometimes have events coming through and they actually want to buy out the whole aquarium or just reserve small areas for receptions. And we also do scavenger hunts. So those are the different things that we do with that.
Wow. So on the ticket side, you're saying you have to print the tickets, which means you need to make sure that the admissions department or guest services department, I'm not sure what department is called at the aquarium. They've now got to, basically operationalize all of the sales that you've made. How does that work? How does that coordinate?
Right. So once I finalize a booking, even though they were my group to start with, now will transfer ownership. That's almost the best way to say it. I'll now transfer it all through to the guest experience team. So I make sure to let the guest experience team know what group is arriving when. So I send out a calendar invite every day to let them know what group is to arrive. I make sure to include the reservation number and some additional details, notes. Sometimes if a group is requesting something, if they're looking at a scavenger hunt or need a wheelchair because we are fully accessible, if any of those notes I put into my email calendar invite as well, then those tickets get brought downstairs to the guest service department. So when the guest arrives, they will then have one person enter the building to collect the tickets from guest services. With currently we're doing a COVID vaccine requirement, so everyone coming in 12 and up requires to be fully vaccinated. So the group leader will come in and meet with guest services, collect their tickets, distribute it amongst their group, show their passport, vaccine passport, show their ID, and self-scan. So we've made it so it's now a self-scan experience. But once they enter the building, obviously we have different parts in the building. We have our facilities, maintenance, we have our husbandry team. Husbandry team is what we call who takes care of the animals. Our educators sometimes are on the floor and they do dive shows and talks at some of our tanks. Sometimes they'll do feeding, so you'll see a shark feeding happen randomly. We don't let people know now, we just do it just to make it easier. There's not so much where you get a group that just shows up. So the whole aquarium has to come together to give the experience to the guest. So even though they were my guests coming through first, we then pass it on to the entire aquarium.
You brought up a good point when you were talking about the new admission, like how you get in. I'm One of the things that we talk about a lot, and I think you just brought that to light, is it's operations and operations within an attraction. It's ever evolving. So none of
Mm-hmm.
us, we never saw COVID coming down the pipeline. But as businesses, as people who are passionate about giving a guest experience, you guys had to quickly adjust. And how are you finding the groups reacting to the new rules that you put in place? So far, so good.
You know what? I'd say that my favorite word, pivot. Everyone's got to
I
learn how
hate
to pivot. I know.
Sandra. I
I
hate
know.
that
I
word.
say it
I
just.
hate it just to piss me off. Yeah,
I know. Everyone's had to pivot and
yeah.
change direction and learn how to adapt. The one thing that we've noticed here at the aquarium is we're very fluid. We've worked really hard to change on the fly, to learn how to be more relaxed and not to feel like, oh no, we have to go through 18 steps before we do something. No, now because of COVID, we have to say, okay, this is how it's going to work better. This is how we're going to make it easier. So one of the things we did is even having our security team do the COVID check for the vaccine was hard because the security team is not necessarily the front of house person you want greeting a guest. So we've had to work with them and even train them to become more guest service personable, so that they know that when a guest comes in and if there is an issue with their passport, then one of our guest experience members will come and take over from that point. But the security is the one that has to come in. Even our group entrance has been shut down temporarily. We only have the one entrance. But we have a flow system, so we know what we're doing, and we're slowly starting to increase our capacity because now we're allowed to. But we notice that we're going to have to speed things up for when it gets a little bit busier, because that lineup does grow, especially with Christmas coming and how busy it could be. We're going to have to be mindful of that.
Right. No, it makes good sense. All right. So when Mike and I are talking, we often talk about some of the craziness that's happened in our lives. What is it, if off the top of your head, what is one of the craziest requests that you got from a group in terms of what they wanted to do, and what's the coolest thing you've been able to accommodate? Because I know you're always trying to make their
Yeah.
dreams come true.
So, I mean, crazy things. I mean, we've had people actually ask to bring in their fishing rods, thinking that they could fish for their fish that they want to have for a meal. Private event groups, they just when you have a private event group, you never know what the request will be.
Right.
We've had sleepover requests, which we've done, and they've been amazing. One of the coolest things that we were able to do was our 10 millionth guest was in 20, I think 18, and they actually were coming through the doors, and they were actually a family that has family here in Canada, but they actually live in the States. So what we did is they won a grand prize where they could have a sleepover, a private sleepover for 16 people, and we went all out. We got the beds put in, specialized sheets and bedding. We had breakfast served basically in their bed. They were seated for one of their meals in front of the tanks, and divers were inside. It was a very cool experience. And then having some of the cool popular people come through the aquarium or have private events like Drake and things like that. I walked Michael Bublé through on a private tour. That was,
Oh, that's awesome.
yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, any last minute, comments for people who want to get in, like we're attractions people at heart, right?
Exactly.
So what are your parting words for someone who wants to get into this industry?
You
Like
know
what?
what? This is fun. I mean, I started off in a different in tourism, a gray line in tours, but this was definitely a leap of faith for me when I moved into this role. But just remember that it can be you have to put in your effort. You have to really put in a bit of time and a bit of grunt work, but what you get out of it and how much fun it could be. Like, I love where I work. I work for a very cool attraction and experience, and I've been fortunate to know that, especially with Ripley Entertainment, their motto is work hard, play hard. So I mean, sometimes you'd feel that what you're doing, but we'd have so many great things, great parties, great there's so much that you get to benefit by working in attractions, reciprocal programs and being able to go on work trips. I've been able to travel to the US, like LA. I was able to go to California. You can grow, and definitely the world's your oyster.
Thank you so much. And on that note, because it's your daughter's birthday tomorrow, you know that whenever you want to come and bring her to Glow Zone, you just call us up, and we will take care of you and your family.
That's
So
perfect. Thank you
I,
for having me, Chuck, and thank
thank
you.
thank you so much.